Welcome back everyone. Time to do another comparison this time around between the Samsung Galaxy Note 20, the newly released phone, versus the other newly released phone, the OnePlus 8 Pro. These two phones in a way are kind of competing in the same demographic, but also not really. But there's a lot of similarities between both of these phones, so it's going to be very interesting to see the differences. Now, honestly, the OnePlus 8 Pro is technically the cheaper device between both of these, so if you're trying to save the most amount of money, not only is the OnePlus 8 Pro kind of cheaper brand new, but on top of that, it's also cheaper in the used market as well because this thing has been out longer. So I'll go ahead and leave the cheapest versions of both of these phones from Amazon in the links down below, so you can go and pick them up from there and help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the front, the OnePlus 8 Pro has a 6.78-inch Fluid AMOLED display, and it's a 1440p panel, and it's a very, very good looking panel. It has very little bezel around the whole entire, body of it. You have that hole punch display in the top left corner, and it's just a really good looking phone. OnePlus did a really good job in this specific panel. Maybe it's not the best looking one, but who cares? Nowadays it's just it's a good looking panel. But on top of it being a good looking panel, you have that fingerprint sensor in the display, which is really cool. But on top of that, and one of the best things about this phone is that it does have that 120Hz refresh rate on top of it. So you can go clock this thing up to 120Hz and just be on your merry way and just be set for a while. And that's a very huge asset for this phone. That's something that, like I said before, phones are starting to bring it this year. But when you look back at the phones, from last, couple years, even the last year or two, a lot of the phones just recently started bringing it up. OnePlus brought it with the OnePlus 7 Pro, but this is a really good setup that the OnePlus 8 Pro has, and I really, really do like it a lot. So the front panel on the OnePlus 8 Pro is a tremendous little panel on it. Now on the Samsung Galaxy Note 20, we have a little bit of a different setup. Okay, we have a 6.7-inch Super AMOLED Plus display, which, those names don't really mean anything. It's just the AMOLED display. It's the same thing we already know. But this is a 1080p panel. And this is very weird because they went from, a 1440p panel with the Note 9 to a 1080p panel, and this phone technically is more expensive than the OnePlus 8 Pro. So why would they go and put a 1080p panel on this phone? I really don't get it. Now, it's not a bad display. It's not really bad, it looks good kind of, but comparing it to the OnePlus 8 Pro, I personally feel like the OnePlus 8 Pro has the advantage in terms of the display. Samsung makes really good displays too. You have that hole punch display, fingerprint sensor in the display as well, and it looks really good. But I feel like the 8 Pro takes the advantage. But on top of that, this panel does not have any 120Hz refresh rate or even a 90Hz refresh rate option. It doesn't have any of those features, which is very weird. It's like you're going to make a phone that's more expensive than the competition and not even add that specific capability, which is very, very weird. So with the Samsung Galaxy Note 20, it has a good looking display for the most part, but it's not anything that's going to wow you. I feel like the Note 10 from last year had kind of a better display in my opinion, but that's just me. It is a flat display though, so some people may prefer that. The OnePlus 8 Pro has kind of a bleeding edge to the side, the waterfall type of display. So that's something, if you like it, then you like it. You can go for the Note 20. If you don't like it, the OnePlus 8 Pro is perfectly fine too. But I truly do believe that in terms of the front displays, the OnePlus 8 Pro definitely wins in terms of that. So in terms of the front, the Samsung Galaxy Note 20, I don't think isn't quite as good as the OnePlus 8 Pro when it comes down to the panels. Both have USB Type-C on the bottom, but the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 does have the S Pen, which is a really cool feature. Now, it's just like a stylus that has a way more capability, but I'm not necessarily going to be comparing those on both phones because the 8 Pro doesn't have it, but that's a really cool feature for the Note 20 nonetheless. And on the back, we have glass back on the OnePlus 8 Pro, but a plastic back on the Note 20. Now, they called it glass stick, they called it something else. I'm going to call it like I see it. I think it's more plastic than glass, and it's pretty insane that they would put a plastic glass back. I'm going to say plastic. That they would put that type of back on a phone that cost $8,000. The iPhone 11 that cost $700 has a glass back. The iPhone SE 2 that costs $400 has a glass back. Even the Galaxy A51 feels more premium than the Note 20 in terms of the back panel, so that's a very weird thing that they did. But the OnePlus 8 Pro has a very nice frosted glass back on the OnePlus 8 Pro, and honestly the way I'm making it sounds like OnePlus paid me to say that. They didn't. I think there's a lot of weird things about the OnePlus 8 Pro as well, but for sure when it comes down to the back and when you're feeling the phone, the 8 Pro feels more like a flagship device in my opinion. You have a quadruple camera setup on the OnePlus 8 Pro, but a triple camera setup on the Note 20, and that's a perfect case where, just because you have more camera sensors doesn't mean it's a better camera, but I'll get into that in a second. But in terms of the back, definitely the Note 20 just again isn't as up to par as the OnePlus 8 Pro, and in terms of the whole entire body, I would definitely give the edge to the OnePlus 8 Pro over the Galaxy Note 20 in my opinion. Now moving on to the software side of things, They both have Android 10, which is really good. The OnePlus 8 Pro is running Oxygen OS 10, where the Galaxy Note 20 is running One UI 2.5. Now, it's really good that both phones, are actually going to be getting software support for quite a bit of time. The Note 20 will end around the same time that the OnePlus 8 Pro and vice versa, so that's really, really good. However, the main downside of this, and basically the only problem that I have with the Samsung side of software as of this point, is just the way it is. You know what I mean? The skinned version of Android, I really don't like it. I never really did. Stock Android feels so much better, and I think Oxygen OS, as of right now, is probably my favorite version of Android. But a big caveat to that is with Android 11, apparently OnePlus is moving away of their standard stock skin from not having any skin on it, and they're kind of matching One UI 2 a little bit. So this could be a domino effect, and maybe bad things could happen, I don't know. But in terms of the software as of right now, the OnePlus 8 Pro I think is definitely the winner in terms of that. It's so smooth, it feels much better, and there's just not a lot going on. With Samsung, I don't know why, there's always random, vibrations and notifications and random sounds coming from that software. On Oxygen OS, I really don't get that often. So in terms of software, that pretty much covers it up. Now hitting on the performance, and I'll do my best to kind of break it down as good as possible. The OnePlus 8 Pro has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 chipset, an octa-core CPU and Adreno 650 GPU, and 2 different models. The base model has 8 gigs of RAM, the top tier model has 12 gigs of RAM, where the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 has the Qualcomm Snapdragon 865 Plus chipset, an octa-core CPU, an Adreno 650 GPU, and 8 gigs of RAM on that base model. There's only one model, the Note 20, and what I can tell you about the performances is that both phones are great performing phones. It's not like one is way worse than the other. In my opinion, the main advantage between both of these phones probably goes for the OnePlus 8 Pro for 2 reasons. One, the software is very stock. There's not a lot of bloatware on that phone. Where the Note 20, there kind of is a lot of pre-installed stuff, a lot of things going on in the background. So the Note 20 already gets, deducted. So the Note 20 gets some points deducted there. But if you get that top tier model of the OnePlus 8 Pro, you're going to be getting more RAM from that specific phone. Where the Note 20, you're only stuck at 8 gigs. So I think, like I said before, that both phones are very good performing phones. The Note 20, anytime I did anything with it, it was perfectly fine. I mean, it's only been out for like a couple of days, but even then I can give you a good idea of how well it runs. And I think overall it does a really, really good job. I didn't really have too many issues with it. It ran as good as you could expect. And the OnePlus 8 Pro is right there too. I don't think inherently that it's the better performing phone, but I do feel like the software is more smoother. When I was, going through the UI and using the gestures and stuff, it did feel smoother, the OnePlus 8 Pro, than the Note 20. So that's a pretty big thing to keep in mind. And if you get the top tier model of the OnePlus 8 Pro, then that's another plus point for this performance and just RAM in general. So in terms of the performance, that pretty much covers it up. Now hitting on the cameras, quadruple camera setup on the OnePlus 8 Pro, 48 megapixel wide-angle lens, 8 megapixel telephoto lens, 48 megapixel ultra-wide sensor, then a 5 megapixel filter camera, whatever they call it. And the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 has the 12 megapixel wide-angle lens, 64 megapixel telephoto lens, and then a 12 megapixel ultra-wide sensor. Now both phones can do 4K 60, which is really good, and both cameras are great in my opinion, but the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 by far is the winner here. Not only do you have really good looking photos, really good looking videos and all that stuff, you also have the capability of shooting 8K videos, which for a lot of people out there is just going to be overkill. You don't need to do it, but it still is tremendous, and that's one of my favorite things about the Galaxy Note 20 for sure. So between both, I personally do feel like the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 will have the better camera sensor there. And on the front, 16 megapixel sensor on the OnePlus 8 Pro, 10 megapixel sensor on the Note 20. And even here, you can do 4K 60 on the Note 20. You can only do 1080p on the OnePlus 8 Pro. So even here, I would give the edge to the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 for sure. So in terms of the camera setup, Samsung Galaxy Note 20 wins. Now ending off with the battery life, the OnePlus 8 Pro has a 4510 mAh battery, where the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 has a 4300 mAh battery. Now both phones have wireless charging, both phones have reverse wireless charging, and between both, it really just depends how you look at them. But even on the worst side of things, I still kind of think that the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 may actually have the better battery life when it comes down to it. You have a lower resolution display, technically a smaller panel, not really, but you have the lack of the 120Hz, which is another thing, and just those two things in and of itself, a higher resolution display and the 120Hz, makes the OnePlus 8 Pro battery life kind of, go down a little bit. Still really good battery life, but it's going to go down a little bit faster than the Note 20. And I would say even on that 60Hz refresh rate on the 8 Pro, you'll probably get better battery life on the Note 20 in my opinion. So in terms of that pretty much covers it there. Now to kind of sum up this video and to answer the question, okay, if you had to go and pick up one of these phones right now, which one would it be? In my opinion, I would personally pick up a OnePlus 8 Pro. I feel like that phone may end up being the better phone overall for me personally, but I do kind of like the camera setup and I kind of like the S Pen on the Note 20 as well. But to give up that 120Hz once I'm so used to it by now, and that stock software, I might just have to go with the OnePlus 8 Pro. But do keep in mind, the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 is still a tremendous device, and if the 8 Pro was a 10 out of 10 for me, the Note 20 is probably like a 9 out of 10. There are some weird things like the plastic back and stuff, but I think overall, if you can get over that, the Note 20 is still a really good phone as well. So in terms of that pretty much covers it up. If you guys want to pick these up, like I stated, the links will be down in the description below. But that's really pretty much it. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys could hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.